The Dutch veterinary landscape is currently experiencing a significant upheaval. A prominent indicator of this turmoil is the decision by IVC Evidensia, the largest investor in veterinary practices across the Netherlands, to shutter a considerable number of its facilities. Recent reports have confirmed that 24 clinics out of their extensive network of over 300 have ceased operations. This development is not an isolated incident, but rather a symptom of deeper systemic issues plaguing the sector. The closures point directly to an inability to maintain adequate staffing levels, a problem that has been brewing for some time and has now reached a critical juncture, forcing such drastic measures upon the company and affecting pet owners nationwide who rely on these services. The primary catalyst for these widespread clinic closures is a substantial exodus of personnel. Hundreds of employees encompassing veterinarians, veterinary assistants, and various support staff have made the difficult decision to leave their positions within the Evidensia chain. This is not a mere trickle of departures, but a significant wave, indicative of profound dissatisfaction among the workforce. The loss of such a large number of skilled professionals creates operational black holes that cannot be easily or quickly filled, particularly in a field that requires specialized training and dedication. The departure of experienced staff also means a loss of institutional knowledge and continuity of care, further complicating the situation for the remaining clinics and their patients. The root cause of this mass departure, as cited by numerous sources including internal documents and extensive interviews, is a deep-seated unhappiness with the commercial policies enforced by the Evidensia chain. Employees have reported feeling immense and often unbearable pressure from management. This pressure is not related to improving patient care in a holistic sense, but rather is narrowly focused on maximizing revenue streams for the corporation. Such an environment can be incredibly demoralizing for professionals who entered the veterinary field driven by a passion for animal welfare and a commitment to ethical medical practice, leading them to seek employment elsewhere or even leave the profession entirely. This pervasive discontent has been an open secret within the veterinary community for a considerable period. The strain of working under conditions perceived as overly commercialized and detrimental to professional autonomy has taken its toll. The sheer number of closures and departing staff members underscores the severity of the crisis. It suggests that the working environment within these corporate-owned clinics has become untenable for a large segment of the veterinary workforce. The situation paints a stark picture of a profession in distress, where the traditional values of care are increasingly clashing with modern corporate imperatives, setting a worrying precedent for the future of animal healthcare in the region. The core of the growing discontent among veterinary staff lies squarely in the relentless commercial pressures they face to maximize revenue. This directive, coming from the upper echelons of management within the corporate structure, fundamentally alters the daily practice of veterinary medicine. Instead of focusing solely on the best interests of the animal patient, veterinarians and their teams find themselves constantly evaluating the financial implications of every decision, every diagnostic test, and every treatment plan. This shift in emphasis creates a stressful and ethically challenging work atmosphere. The constant drive for higher profits can overshadow the nuanced, compassionate care that defines the veterinary profession, leading to burnout and disillusionment among dedicated staff members who feel their primary mission is being compromised. One specific manifestation of this commercial pressure, as reported by disillusioned former employees, involves directives regarding medication prescriptions. Staff were allegedly encouraged, or even implicitly required, to prescribe more expensive versions of certain medications when cheaper, equally effective alternatives might have been available. This practice directly inflates costs for pet owners and can strain the trust between the veterinarian and their client. Furthermore, it places the veterinarian in an ethically precarious position. caught between corporate expectations for profit generation and their professional obligation to provide the most appropriate and cost-effective care. Such policies, aimed at boosting the bottom line, can erode the foundational principles of veterinary practice, which prioritize animal health and owner well-being above all else. Beyond medication choices, another area where financial targets reportedly influenced professional conduct was in the pricing of services, such as the issuance of prescriptions. There are accounts of staff being instructed to charge significantly higher fees merely for the administrative task of writing a prescription. This practice, while perhaps boosting revenue figures in the short term, can be perceived by clients as exploitative and unnecessary. It adds another layer of financial burden on pet owners, who are already contending with the inherent costs of animal healthcare. The cumulative effect of these fee structures is an increase in the overall cost of veterinary services, making routine care potentially less accessible for some segments of the population and fostering resentment towards the providers. Furthermore, managerial directives allegedly extended to the frequency of diagnostic procedures and referral patterns. Veterinarians reported being urged to perform X-rays more often, even in situations where their clinical judgment might have suggested a more conservative approach. Additionally, there was a reported push to refer clients to specialist hospitals that were also part of the wider Evidensia chain. While internal referrals can streamline care, the pressure to do so primarily for financial gain, rather than purely for the patient's optimal outcome, raises serious concerns about the integrity of clinical decision-making. These practices contribute to an environment where professional autonomy feels increasingly constrained by corporate financial goals, pushing many to reconsider their place within such organizations. The relentless drive for increased revenue, as described by former and current staff, inevitably leads to significant ethical dilemmas for veterinary professionals. The kind of interference in professional judgment detailed in reports, such as pushing for specific medications or unnecessary procedures, is widely considered a violation of the sector's established ethical code. This code prioritizes the health and welfare of the animal alongside honest and transparent communication with the owner. When business targets begin to dictate clinical decisions, the very foundation of veterinary ethics is undermined. Professionals are then forced to navigate a treacherous path between corporate demands and their sworn duty to their patients, a conflict that can lead to moral distress and a profound sense of compromise. This constant tension has a deeply corrosive effect on veterinarians' ability to practice medicine in a way that aligns with their training and personal values. They are educated to make decisions based on scientific evidence, clinical experience, and the unique needs of each animal. However, when confronted with top-down pressures to meet financial quotas, their professional autonomy is severely curtailed. This can lead to a feeling that they are no longer primarily advocates for their animal patients, but rather cogs in a revenue-generating machine. Such an environment is not conducive to job satisfaction or long-term career fulfillment, contributing significantly to the high turnover rates and the exodus of experienced professionals from these corporate settings, ultimately impacting the quality and consistency of care available. The depth of this dissatisfaction was starkly articulated by veterinarian Paul Mandigers, who stated to NRC, "There isn't a single veterinarian happy with how things are going now." This powerful statement encapsulates the widespread frustration and disillusionment felt by many within the profession who are working under these commercial pressures. It suggests that the issues are not isolated incidents affecting a few individuals, but represent a systemic problem that permeates the working lives of many veterinarians employed by large chains. Such a sweeping declaration from a member of the profession highlights the urgent need for a re-evaluation of the prevailing business models and their impact on the well-being of both animals and the veterinary teams dedicated to their care. This unfortunate situation, where commercial interests appear to overshadow ethical considerations, has not developed overnight. The dissatisfaction among staff has been accumulating for a considerable time, simmering beneath the surface before boiling over into the current crisis of clinic closures and staff departures. Many veterinarians and support staff have likely endured these pressures for years, hoping for improvements or finding ways to mitigate the impact on their practice. However, for a growing number, a breaking point has been reached, where the ethical compromises demanded have become too great to bear. This slow burn of discontent has finally ignited, forcing the issues into the public eye and compelling a response from the corporate entities involved. In response to the growing crisis and the public airing of grievances, IVC Evidensia has issued statements acknowledging that its current working methods offer room for improvement. This admission, while perhaps understated given the scale of the reported problems, marks a public recognition that the status quo is unsustainable. The company has further stated that it is now actively intervening to address the concerns raised by its employees. Such acknowledgements are a crucial first step, though the true measure of change will lie in the tangible actions taken and their subsequent impact on the working lives of veterinary staff and the quality of care provided to animal patients across their remaining network of clinics. The company has outlined some of the proposed interventions, indicating a move towards radical changes in our operational structure and management. Significantly, these planned changes reportedly include a commitment to greater involvement of veterinarians in leadership positions. This particular reform, if implemented meaningfully, could potentially address some of the core complaints regarding a disconnect between corporate directives and on-the-ground clinical realities. The claim that these changes are being made following direct employee feedback suggests a willingness, at least ostensibly, to listen to the concerns of their workforce. Whether these structural adjustments will be sufficient to rebuild trust and alleviate the pressures remains to be seen, but it signals an attempt to alter course. Adding another layer of complexity to this situation is the broader economic context of veterinary care. Research conducted by the Dutch Ministry of Agriculture, released in April 2025, just last month, indicated that veterinary costs have risen sharply in recent years. This trend predates the immediate crisis at Evidensia, but provides an important backdrop. The rising costs are a concern for pet owners and contribute to the pressures within the industry. While corporate practices aiming to maximize revenue are one factor, other elements such as advancements in medical technology, increased specialization, and general inflation also play a role in the escalating expense of keeping pets healthy, making the current focus on commercialism particularly sensitive. The information underpinning the current understanding of the crisis within Evidensia stems from a thorough investigation by NRC, which utilized internal company documents and conducted interviews with over 20 individuals directly involved. This journalistic work brought to light the extent of the internal dissatisfaction and the specific practices causing concern. The interventions now being proposed by Evidensia management can be seen as a direct response to these revelations and the ensuing public and professional scrutiny. The entire episode underscores a critical need for greater transparency and a rebalancing of priorities within the increasingly corporatized veterinary sector, ensuring that ethical practice and staff well-being are not sacrificed in the pursuit of profit.